Hello and welcome to the introduction to the City Block Stamp Set, Stencil Pack, and Dies, a really fun bundle that allows you to create a city scene you might see in Brazil or Latin America. The stamp set has stamps for the windows and doors, sentiments, it's a good day for a good day, no one stacks up to you, and all these small little banner sentiments. You did it, you're great, big hugs, thank you, hello friend, love you, hooray, and happy birthday, and those all fit on this little banner die, which I'll show you in a minute. But I want to show you this stencil pack. There's 4 stencils that allow you to blend a colorful, kind of like city block. And you can see on the back of the packaging how it gives you kind of like that 3-dimensional look. Now for the dies, there's lots of tiny little dies. So there's the windows and the doors. I die cut these to show you, get a better idea of what these dies look like and how they work. And I'm going to put a card together so you can really get an idea of how it all comes together. All these little flower pots with different greenery, some cactuses and different types of foliage, and you can mix and match, change up your flower pot colors, put these kind of fall over plants can go on railings, and you can double up your greenery with 2 different shades of green to get, multicolored greenery. And this little flag you can hang from a balcony. You could put a heart on it. These are the 2 little banners that fit perfectly with all these sentiments. Some are bigger than others and fit better on the big one and the small one. I'll just stamp one really quickly so you could see how easy it is. Of course, you could die cut the banner out of solid color cardstock if you don't want to do white, but here's a white and black. Hello friend. So easy to create. And then you have the little teeny tiny one, which have teeny tiny sentiments. Here I stamped love you, just in black on white. But it would be fun to die cut the banner out of a solid color cardstock and then stamp it with that same color ink and get a tone-on-tone banner. Another thing I want to point out, every bundle in this month's release have little stitching detail options. And these little slits, there's several of them, they fit perfectly on the sides of the buildings after you blend it. And they will die cut little piercing holes so that you can add stitching details. A lot of fun stitching happening this month. Okay, so I'm going to start blending. I have a panel of white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. The stencils are numbered. You can see a 1 there. There's also registration marks in each of the corners that allows you to line up an A2 panel effortlessly. Now you can really customize this with the colors that you choose to blend. I'm going to start here, and I have a piece of scratch paper to kind of block off other parts of the stencil I don't want to get ink on. So I find that to be helpful. I'm starting with grapefruit. I feel like my color palette is giving a little bit desert vibes, maybe Arizona, I don't know. But I do another panel where I tried to go holiday with reds and greens. I don't know if it was successful, but you could do like all neutrals with different colors of browns and beiges. You could do a wintry one. So just think of different color palettes that you could do. Here we have clementine ink. So I started with grapefruit. Now I'm blending with clementine. And I don't really have a plan. I'm just trying to create a lot of color. And if you're completely lost, just go off of the back of the packaging. Use that as a color guide for your first time around. And then from there, once you become an expert, then you could really branch out and experiment. Here we have buttercup. And you don't have to use so many different colors. You could do each stencil 1 color. You could do that. But I do want to point out the small little parts here. After I do all these with buttercup, I want to show you this one little small slit right here. That is the side of a building. So every time you have these small little slits, that's going to be a side of a building. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. Whatever color your building is on the front, when you go to blend the side, just choose a darker color or try to make it slightly darker, but in that same color family. I think you'll be happier with the results of how it looks. But again, that's just my opinion. There's certainly no city block police out there. You can do whatever you want and experiment. Here I'm doing a bunch of eucalyptus buildings. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to do a stardust. Another thing I try to keep in mind is to disperse my colors evenly. So I don't want to put an orange building right next to another orange building. You want to space them out. So once you have your color scheme, like at least 3 colors, then space them out evenly and try not to put one building color right next to the same building color. Okay, so this was either a grapefruit or a clementine building, so I'm doing cayenne for the sides. And that's going to give you that darker tone, but still in the same color family. Here I had already blended the side out of juniper, so I'm doing the front of the building lighter out of eucalyptus. Sounds a little bit complex, but honestly, once you do one or two, then you get the hang of it. Here's another, I use spice cider for this one, just to give a little bit orangey tone. And then here's juniper for this. This is where the scratch paper kind of comes in handy, because sometimes the stencil openings are close together and you only want to get juniper where you want juniper, not into the cayenne opening. Okay, so this City Block panel is finished. It's got a very kind of deserty Latin America feel, I guess. Now here's one where I tried to do kind of more holiday colors, so you can make like a holiday city block. And I mean, it's still the same, but just a different feel. I used poppy. I also used pink lemonade, honeysuckle, sprout, parsley, eucalyptus again, and it kind of gives you a different vibe. Now I'm going to stamp some windows. The windows are one stamp, so you're going to stamp a row of windows, and you could change up your colors. I'm going to do several. I'm starting with one with lakefront, so it's kind of a darker, looks like maybe the lights are off. And then you could also do yellow to look like a soft, warm glow. Here I'll do a light one, sea glass, and that one gives you a lighter feel, almost like a window, like reflecting, like a light reflecting off of a window vibe. And here's a buttercup, so this will give you like a warm glow. And then I'll do one more out of juniper, which will kind of stay in the same color family, so it'll tie in, but it's still kind of dark, a dark greeny blue. So we have several window color options. Now the die is one die. It's going to cut out all of those windows in one shebang. I'm going to take this off camera, run it through my die cutting machine, and you'll see you'll pop out a whole row of windows. I'm going to die cut all these rows. It comes together really quick. Next thing you know, you have a pile of windows to choose from, and you'll be glad to have a lot of window options when you're ready to start assembling. Now I'm stamping the row of doors. Here I have a panel of, I think it's eucalyptus. It's either eucalyptus or aqua sky. I stamped the door detail with juniper. Then I'm going to use the coordinating die, the door die, cut them all out. And I'm going to do several different doors, different color options. And you'll be glad, just stamp a bunch of doors and a bunch of windows, and then you have all these choices to make your city block colorful. And it's nice to try to, use similar colors that you use with the ink blending. And then now here, I'm just using glue to glue on all the doors. You can put doors wherever you want, wherever you want, up high, down low, and you'll see how this comes together. I'm just using liquid glue. You could also use foam tape if you want to add dimension. You can add as much or as little. Make it as busy or as simple as you choose. Now I'm adhering some windows. It's nice to just mix and match the height and the style. And then now I'm adding some pots, just resting on top of buildings, sitting by a door. Now I'm adhering some balconies. You could put the balconies like on top of the building or in front of a window, and then also adding some greenery to the tops of buildings, tops of balconies, just zhuzhing it up to the high heavens. And then these banners fit perfectly like they're hanging on the building. I used the Hello Friend, Love You. And then now for this card, I want to show you how to add the stitching detail. So all these little dies, like I said, fit perfectly on the sides of the buildings. And they have that little slant. And you'll know which one fits because they're all different heights and shapes. There should be one for each side of a building. And then you just match it like a puzzle piece. Then I'm going to take this off camera, run it through my die cutting machine. And this will put little piercing holes on the sides so you could add stitching detail. Hold this up close so you can see the teeny tiny holes just kind of cascading down the sides of each of the buildings. Now before I stitch, I want to stamp a sentiment. I'm using Sprout ink because I'm stamping this on the Sprout blended building. It says, "It's a good day for a good day." And then I'm going to start from the back, and I'm using some kind of silver thread or twine. I hold it down on the back with a little bit of score tape. Now this is a very simple and easy stitch. It's not even a back stitch. You just weave in and out of the holes. Of course, if you want to try to come up with fancy dancy stitching designs, I'm sure you can, but I kept it very basic. I do not consider myself an expert level stitcher. In fact, I did so much stitching for this November release, I realized, you know what I need? A thimble. I need a thimble. My hands were raw after making all these cards. I think I made 14 cards and about 7 of them had stitching. It really is a fantastic result. Now this card, I added all the bells and whistles. So it's finished. You could see the stitching on the sides of each of the buildings. I added windows and doors and plants. The card on the left has no stitching, but it does have the fancy balconies. So there's a ton of different ways you can zhuzh up your buildings. It's a lot of fun. And that is the introduction to the City Block Stamp Set, Stencil Pack, and Dies.